The wounded alien predator was dying, until a human boy hugged him for the first time. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. In the dense forests of northern Michigan, where ancient pines reached toward the heavens and wildlife thrived in the untouched wilderness, a strange vessel had crashed through the canopy, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Commander Vex lay bleeding inside the crumpled escape pod, his massive frame barely contained within the emergency shelter. The crash had been violent, throwing his 12-foot body against the reinforced walls with enough force to crack even his armored exoskeleton. Purple blood seeped from multiple wounds, pooling beneath him as his triple-chambered heart struggled to maintain circulation. His breathing came in shallow, ragged gasps, each one more painful than the last. As the most decorated hunter of the Centauri, the galaxy's apex predators, he had never imagined dying like this, alone, wounded, and stranded on a primitive world. The bitter irony wasn't lost on him. For centuries, his species had hunted across thousands of planets, collecting trophies from the most dangerous creatures in the universe. They were feared throughout the galaxy, their mere mention causing advanced civilizations to tremble. Yet here he was, defeated not by a worthy adversary, but by a simple mechanical failure and the subsequent crash. Vex tried to access the pod's emergency beacon, but his claws, once precise instruments of death, now trembled uncontrollably. The communication system had been damaged in the crash, and the life support was failing. Even if his ship detected the pod's automatic distress signal, rescue would take days to arrive. Days he knew he didn't have. Through the cracked viewport, he could see the primitive Earth forest. His species had cataloged this planet centuries ago, Class 3 biosphere, dominated by a young sentient species called humans. They were considered unremarkable, no natural weapons, fragile bodies, limited strength, and only rudimentary technology. The Centauri High Command had deemed them unworthy of a formal hunt. Too easy. No challenge. No honor. A warning flashed across the pod systems, atmospheric containment failing. Soon the planet's air would flood in. While it was breathable for his kind, Vex knew that exposure to the microbes of this world without proper immunological preparation could accelerate his decline. But it hardly mattered now. He was already dying. As consciousness began to slip away, Vex's thoughts turned to the hunt beyond, the spiritual realm where all great Centauri warriors were said to continue their eternal pursuit. Would he be welcome there, or would his ignoble death mark him as unworthy? The question lingered as darkness crept in from the edges of his vision. Miles away, in a modest cabin at the forest's edge, 8-year-old Ethan Cole sat at his bedroom window, eyes wide with wonder as he tracked what he believed was a shooting star across the night sky. But instead of fading, the light had grown brighter, closer, until it disappeared behind the tree line with a distant crash that shook the ground. "Dad! Dad!" Ethan called out, racing down the stairs 2 at a time. Something fell from the sky. In the forest, Nathan Cole looked up from his laptop, where he'd been responding to emails from his research team. As a wildlife biologist studying wolf populations in the region, he was used to his son's excitement about nature, but the urgency in Ethan's voice caught his attention. "Slow down, buddy. What are you talking about?" "A shooting star, but it didn't shoot past. It fell into the trees." Ethan grabbed his father's hand, pulling him toward the window. "We have to go see." Nathan checked his watch. Nearly 10 p.m. "It's way past your bedtime, and we're not wandering through the forest in the dark. If something fell, it'll still be there tomorrow." "But Dad," Ethan protested, his blue eyes wide with the innocent conviction only children possess. "What if someone needs help?" Nathan sighed, recognizing the stubborn set of his son's jaw. Since losing his mother to cancer 2 years ago, Ethan had developed an almost fierce compassion for anything in need or pain. It was his way of processing grief, the therapist had explained, helping others when he couldn't help his mom. "Tell you what," Nathan compromised. "If you go to bed now without complaint, we'll head out first thing in the morning to investigate." "Deal." Ethan considered this, then nodded reluctantly. Promise. Promise, Nathan confirmed, ruffling his son's sandy blonde hair. Now bedtime. But sleep didn't come easily for Ethan that night. His mind raced with possibilities. What if it was a real spaceship? What if there were aliens? What if they needed help? His father had always taught him that every living thing deserved compassion, even the scary-looking creatures that other kids might fear. That's why his dad studied wolves instead of trying to hunt them like some people did. When the first light of dawn filtered through his curtains, Ethan was already dressed, backpack filled with what he considered essential expedition supplies, a flashlight, a first aid kit, because his mom had always said you should never go anywhere without one, a water bottle, and half a package of Oreos that he'd squirreled away from the kitchen. Necessities covered, he crept to his father's bedroom door and knocked with the restraint of someone showing tremendous patience. "Dad, the sun's up. You promised." Nathan groaned into his pillow, immediately regretting last night's deal. He checked the time, 5:43 a.m. Technically, yes, the sun was up, but just barely. Still, a promise was a promise, and Ethan's excitement was already at levels too high for any reasonable hope of him going back to bed. "Give me 15 minutes, he called back, hearing the enthusiastic, "Okay," and rapid footsteps retreating down the hallway. By 6:30 a.m., they were making their way through the forest, Nathan with a GPS device and Ethan consulting the map he'd drawn based on where he thought the object had landed. Though they'd lived in this cabin for nearly 3 years while Nathan conducted his research, the forest was vast, and finding a small crashed object would be challenging. "Remember, we stick together," Nathan reminded his son. "This forest is big enough to get lost in, even for experienced hikers." "I know, Dad," Ethan responded absently, his attention focused on the trees ahead. "But I'm sure it's this way. I saw it fall right over that big ridge." For nearly 2 hours, they hiked through increasingly dense forest, Nathan beginning to think they should turn back. Whatever had fallen, probably a meteorite if anything, could be anywhere in hundreds of acres of woodland. The chances of finding it were slim to none. "Ethan, I think we should head back. We can try again another day with a better plan," Nathan suggested. But Ethan had stopped walking, his head tilted as if listening. "Do you hear that?" Nathan paused, focusing his senses. At first, he heard nothing beyond the usual forest sounds, birds, the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. Then he caught it, a faint, rhythmic sound, almost like labored breathing, coming from beyond a thick stand of trees ahead. "Stay behind me," Nathan instructed, moving forward cautiously. They pushed through the underbrush and suddenly found themselves at the edge of a fresh clearing, one that hadn't existed yesterday. Trees lay splintered and flattened in a rough circle, and at the center sat a metallic object unlike anything Nathan had ever seen. It was roughly the size of a small car, its surface an unusual iridescent material that seemed to shift colors as clouds passed overhead. Part of it had been crushed on impact, revealing complex machinery within. "Is that a spaceship?" Ethan whispered, eyes wide with wonder. Nathan stared, his scientific mind racing through explanations. A satellite? Some secret military aircraft? But nothing matched what lay before them. "I don't know," he admitted, taking out his phone. "No signal. We should go back and call authorities." "Dad, look." Ethan pointed to what appeared to be a viewport on the side of the craft. Through the cracked, transparent material, something was moving inside. Before Nathan could stop him, Ethan darted forward across the clearing. "Ethan, wait!" Nathan called, running after his son. But Ethan had already reached the strange craft and was peering through the damaged viewport. What he saw made him gasp. Inside was a creature straight from the pages of his science fiction books, huge, alien, and clearly injured. Its skin was a mottled pattern of deep greens and browns, covered in places with what looked like natural armor plating. Multiple wounds leaked thick purple fluid that Ethan instinctively recognized as blood. "Dad," he called, his voice trembling with excitement and concern. "There's someone hurt inside." Nathan reached his son's side and looked through the viewport, his blood running cold at the sight. Whatever lay inside was not human, not even close. Its face resembled something between a reptile and an insect, with multiple eyes now half closed and mandibles that twitched weakly around a mouth full of sharp teeth. The creature's body was massive, with 4 powerful arms ending in clawed hands. One of those hands now pressed against the viewport from the inside, leaving a smear of purple. "Ethan, back away," Nathan said firmly, pulling his son back. "We don't know what that is." "It's hurt, Dad," Ethan insisted, resisting his father's pull. "Mom always said it doesn't matter what someone looks like. If they're hurt, they need help." The mention of his late wife's philosophy gave Nathan pause. Emma had been a doctor, dedicated to healing regardless of circumstance. It was one of the many reasons he'd fallen in love with her. But this was different. This was potentially dangerous in ways Emma could never have imagined. A sudden mechanical hiss made them both jump back as what appeared to be a door on the craft slowly slid open, releasing a cloud of strange-smelling vapor. Nathan grabbed Ethan and retreated several steps, unsure what might emerge. But nothing did. The opening revealed more of the craft's interior and the injured alien, now visibly struggling to breathe. Its massive chest rose and fell in uneven movements, and those strange eyes blinked slowly, focusing on them with obvious effort. "It's dying, Dad," Ethan whispered, and the simple certainty in his voice struck Nathan. Children often saw truth more clearly than adults, unhindered by layers of preconception and fear. The creature made a sound, a deep, rattling growl that somehow conveyed pain more effectively than words could have. One clawed hand reached toward them in what might have been a gesture of threat or plea, before falling limply to its side. Nathan's mind raced. This was beyond anything his training had prepared him for. As a scientist, he should document this, call authorities, keep a safe distance. But as a human being witnessing suffering, those clinical instincts warred with deeper impulses. While Nathan hesitated, Ethan made the decision for them both. Before his father could stop him, he slipped free of Nathan's grasp and approached the open door of the craft. "Ethan," Nathan hissed, fear coursing through him. But Ethan moved with the fearless compassion of childhood, stepping up to the threshold of the alien craft. From his position, he could now see the creature fully, enormous, fearsome, and yet somehow vulnerable in its injured state. "Hi," Ethan said simply. "We want to help you." The alien's eyes widened slightly, all for focusing on the small human child. A series of clicks and growls emerged from its mouth, clearly an attempt at communication. "I don't understand," Ethan admitted. "But you're hurt. My mom was a doctor. She helped people who were hurt." Nathan approached cautiously, every parental instinct screaming at him to pull Ethan away. But something held him back, the way the alien was watching his son, not with aggression but with what seemed like confusion, perhaps even wonder. "Ethan," Nathan said quietly, "we need to be careful. We don't know anything about him." Him, I think," Ethan replied with the confident certainty of a child. "And he's really hurt, Dad. Look at all the purple blood." Indeed, the amount of fluid pooling beneath the creature was alarming. Whatever this being was, it was losing a lot of blood. Too much, probably. The alien made another sound, this one weaker than before, and its eyes began to drift closed. One of its hands moved to a panel near the door, pressing a sequence of symbols. A compartment opened in the wall, and a small device slid out. With obvious effort, the creature took the device and held it out toward them. "What is it?" Ethan asked, fascinated. "Don't touch it," Nathan warned, but it was too late. The alien had dropped the device, and Ethan, reacting instinctively, caught it before it hit the ground. The moment Ethan's fingers closed around the device, it lit up with a soft blue glow. Symbols flashed across its surface, then reorganized themselves into recognizable letters. English letters, forming words that scrolled across a small screen. Translation protocol initialized. Basic communication enabled. Ethan's eyes widened. "Dad, it's a translator." The device hummed softly, then displayed new text. "I am Commander Vex of the Zentari fleet. I am dying. My ship will come, but too late." Ethan looked up at the alien, at Vex, with tears forming in his eyes. The simple statement of fact, so lacking in self-pity, yet so final, touched something in the boy's heart. He remembered when the doctors had said similar things about his mother, how the treatments would come, but too late. No, Ethan said firmly. We'll help you. Right, Dad? Nathan stared at the translator device, then at the alien, reality shifting around him. An actual alien. First contact. And it was happening here, in the Michigan forest, with just him and his 8-year-old son as witnesses. The device lit up again. Why would you help? Centauri are predators. Humans are prey. The words sent a chill down Nathan's spine. Predators. Prey. The implications were disturbing, to say the least. He moved forward, ready to pull Ethan back, but his son's response stopped him. That doesn't matter, Ethan said firmly. You're hurt. When someone's hurt, you help them. That's what being human means. The alien's eyes blinked slowly, all for focusing on Ethan with what might have been confusion. Concept unfamiliar. Centauri help only Centauri. All others are prey or enemies. Well, that's silly. Ethan replied with a child's straightforward logic. What if you need help and there are no other Centauri around? Like now. There was a pause before new text appeared. Logic. Unexpected, but irrelevant. Wounds fatal. Internal damage extensive. Biological systems failing. Nathan, who had been hanging back, studying the craft and the alien while keeping a protective eye on Ethan, now stepped forward. His scientific training was kicking in, overriding his fear. What kind of internal damage? He asked. I'm not a medical doctor, but I have some training in biology. Maybe we can stabilize you until help arrives. The translator processed his words, then displayed. Punctured tertiary heart chamber. Fractured exoskeleton. Compromised lung sacs. Neural damage to lower extremities. Nathan grimaced. Even without understanding the specifics of Centauri physiology, it sounded bad. Multiple critical systems damaged, massive blood loss. In a human, these would indeed be fatal without immediate advanced medical intervention. Dad, we have to try. Ethan insisted, looking up at Nathan with Emma's eyes, the same determined compassion that had made her such an exceptional doctor. Nathan knelt beside his son. Ethan, I understand you want to help, but this is beyond anything we can handle. We don't know the first thing about Centauri biology. We could make things worse. But we have to try something, Ethan persisted. We can't just watch him die. The translator flashed again. Small human shows courage. Honorable. Centauri respect courage. Ethan turned back to Vex. My name is Ethan. This is my dad, Nathan. We live in the forest to study wolves. Dad knows a lot about animals. Wolves. Earth predators. Pack hunters. Respectable prey. Nathan raised an eyebrow at that, but decided not to comment. Instead, he addressed what seemed most urgent. Is there any medical equipment on your ship? Something we could use to help you. The alien raised one massive hand, pointing to another compartment across the craft's interior. With obvious effort, he tapped another sequence, and the panel slid open, revealing what looked like medical supplies. Containers of various liquids, instruments that resembled surgical tools, and several devices whose purpose Nathan couldn't begin to guess. How do we use them? Nathan asked, surprised by his own willingness to help a self-described predator who had just implied that humans were considered prey. Cannot instruct properly. Too complex. Centauri physiology unlike human. Then what can we do? Ethan asked, his small face creased with worry. The alien's breathing had grown more labored, the purple blood continuing to pool beneath him. His eyes were beginning to glaze over, the signs of approaching death recognizable even across species. Nothing to be done. I die with honor, having met worthy beings. Small human Ethan, Father Nathan, your courage is noted. Ethan's lower lip trembled. No, there has to be something. In a move that shocked both humans, the alien reached out with one massive clawed hand and gently, so gently it was barely a touch, brushed Ethan's cheek. You would have made worthy prey, little warrior. This is compliment in Centauri culture. I don't want to be prey or a warrior, Ethan replied, tears now flowing freely. I just want you to be okay. Something shifted in the alien's expression, subtle, but Nathan caught it. A softening around those strange eyes, a slight relaxing of the fearsome mandibles. Was it possible this predatory alien was moved by a child's compassion? Death comes. I accept. You should leave. When my ship detects life signs terminated, automated protocol will destroy this pod. Safety measure. How long? Nathan asked sharply, glancing around the craft with new concern. Approximately your Earth measure. 20 minutes after death. Then we're not leaving, Ethan declared with finality. Not while you're still alive. The alien made a sound, different from the pained growls before. This one was softer, almost like a sigh. Zentari die alone. This is way. Not today, Ethan said, and before Nathan could stop him, he climbed into the craft and approached the massive alien. Vex tensed visibly, perhaps from pain, perhaps from surprise at the small human's boldness. Nathan held his breath, ready to lunge forward and grab his son at the first sign of danger. But what happened next froze him in place. Ethan, this tiny human child facing a dying alien predator, simply reached out and wrapped his arms as far as they would go around one of Vex's massive arms. A hug, the most basic human gesture of comfort and connection. When my mom was dying, Ethan said softly. She said the hugs helped more than the medicine sometimes. That feeling someone close made the pain less scary. Vex went completely still, all four eyes fixed on the small form pressed against him. For a heart-stopping moment, Nathan feared the worst, that the predatory instincts would take over, that his son had made a fatal mistake. Then, with agonizing slowness, the alien raised his free hand and hovered it above Ethan's head. It remained there, trembling slightly, before coming to rest with impossible gentleness on the boy's sandy hair. The translator lit up one more time. What is this? Sensation? Nathan found his voice. It's called comfort, Vex. Human comfort. Zentari do not. Comfort. We hunt. We kill. We survive. No word for this. Everyone needs comfort, Ethan said, his voice muffled against Vex's arm. Even the strongest hunters. Something remarkable began to happen. Where Ethan's arms pressed against the alien's wounded body, a subtle glow emerged, so faint at first that Nathan thought he was imagining it. But it grew stronger, a soft golden light that seemed to pulse between the boy and the alien. Dad, Ethan whispered, not moving from his position. I feel warm. Like sunshine inside. Nathan stepped closer, scientific curiosity overriding caution. The glow was spreading now, following the network of what might be veins or circulatory pathways throughout Vex's massive body. Wherever the light touched, the purple seepage of blood seemed to slow. The alien's breathing, which had been shallow and ragged, began to even out. His eyes, previously dulling with approaching death, sharpened, all four focusing on Ethan with what could only be described as wonder. The translator, still in Ethan's hand where it pressed against Vex, flashed rapidly. Impossible. Biological interface detected. Cellular regeneration initiating. How? What's happening? Nathan asked, torn between amazement and renewed fear. The small one. Healing me. Somehow. Zentari cells responding to unknown stimulus. I'm doing what? Ethan asked, looking up at Vex without breaking the embrace. Your touch. Your comfort. It activates something. Impossible. Nathan watched in astonishment as the golden glow intensified. The pool of purple blood beneath Vex stopped expanding. The alien's breathing continued to improve, becoming deeper and more regular. Even his posture seemed to strengthen. The massive body no longer slumped in defeat. Ethan, Nathan said carefully, how do you feel? Tired, Ethan admitted. But good tired. Like after playing all day. And happy. He looked up at Vex. Are you feeling better? The translator displayed. Function returning. Pain decreasing. Tertiary heart chamber. Regenerating. Impossible, yet occurring. But how? Nathan asked, his scientific mind struggling to comprehend what he was witnessing. Vex raised his free hand, examining it as the golden glow flowed through the limb, restoring strength and function. Unknown. Humans not in Zentari database as healers. Humans categorized. Primitive, vulnerable, unworthy of hunt. Maybe you don't know as much about humans as you thought, Nathan suggested, watching the miracle unfold before him. Evidently not. The text seemed to carry a note of humility that hadn't been present before. The glow was beginning to fade now, but Ethan maintained his hug, his small body pressed against the enormous alien. Nathan noticed his son's eyelids drooping. Whatever was happening was clearly taking a toll on the boy. Ethan, maybe you should take a break, Nathan suggested, concerned. Not yet, Ethan mumbled. Not until he's better. Vex looked from Ethan to Nathan, then back again. Something had changed in those alien eyes. A softening, a dawning comprehension of something that seemed to shake the creature to its core. The small one expends his own life energy. For me, a predator, an enemy. Why? Nathan pondered the question, watching his son with a mixture of pride and worry. Because that's who he is. Who we try to be, at our best. It's not about what you are, it's about what you need. The concept seemed to stagger the alien, his massive frame shifting as if physically impacted by the idea. This is not weakness. No, Nathan said firmly. It's strength. Maybe the greatest strength. The translator was silent for a long moment before new text appeared. Zentari philosophy. Strength through dominance. Power through fear. Honor in conquest. And how's that working out for you? Nathan asked pointedly, gesturing to the crashed escape pod. For what might have been the first time in Zentari history, the fearsome predator seemed at a loss. Point. Acknowledged. The golden glow had almost completely faded now, and Ethan slumped against Vex, clearly exhausted. With surprising gentleness, the alien shifted, using 2 of his 4 arms to support the boy. Ethan. Nathan moved forward, alarmed. He is unharmed. Merely depleted. Energy transfer significant. Let me take him, Nathan said, reaching for his son. To his surprise, Vex hesitated, those alien eyes studying Ethan's sleeping face with an expression Nathan couldn't read. Then, with careful movements that belied his massive size and fearsome appearance, the predator gently transferred the boy to his father's arms. The small one, Ethan, has given gift beyond measure. Life. Zentari do not forget such debts. Nathan cradled his sleeping son, noting with relief that Ethan's breathing was steady and his color normal. He seemed to be simply sleeping, albeit deeply. Will he be okay? Nathan asked, his parental concern overwhelming everything else. Yes. Natural recovery through sleep. Remarkable adaptation. Humans contain unexpected depths. Nathan settled on the edge of the craft's entrance, Ethan secure in his arms. So what happens now? You said your ship would come eventually. Vex moved, testing his limbs, his movements growing steadier by the minute. The wounds were visibly healing, the exoskeleton reforming, the bleeding completely stopped. Whatever Ethan had done had triggered an accelerated healing process unlike anything Nathan could have imagined. Yes, rescue approximately 36 of your hours away. However, the text paused, as if Vex was considering his words carefully. This encounter changes things. Zentari High Command must be informed of human abilities. A chill ran down Nathan's spine. What exactly does that mean for us? For Earth, the alien studied him, then Ethan, before responding. Traditionally, discovery of species with valuable biological traits leads to harvesting. Harvesting, Nathan repeated, his arms tightening protectively around his son. You mean hunting? Killing? Yes. This has been way of Zentari for millennia. But, Nathan prompted, tension radiating through him. Vex moved closer, towering over the seated human and his sleeping child. In his restored state, the alien was truly intimidating, a perfect predator, designed by evolution for hunting and killing. Yet when he reached out one clawed hand, the movement was hesitant, almost reverent, as he gently touched Ethan's head. But I find I cannot recommend this course. The small one has shown me something no Zentari has ever witnessed. A power greater than hunting, than killing. Compassion, Nathan supplied. Perhaps. Word does not exist in Zentari language. Closest translation, strength that gives rather than strength that takes. Nathan nodded. That's a good way to put it. Vex straightened to his full height, his posture now regal, commanding. A glimpse of the officer, he must be among his own kind. I must meditate on this. Zentari beliefs are ancient, rigid. Change comes slowly, if at all. But what happened here cannot be denied. And what about us? Nathan asked. Me and Ethan? What happens when your people arrive? The alien considered this, his mandibles clicking softly. You will be safe. This I swear by the hunt beyond. Your existence remains unknown to all but me. And I owe the small one a debt that cannot be repaid. He didn't do it for a debt, Nathan pointed out. He did it because it was right. Which makes the debt greater still. In his arms, Ethan stirred slightly, murmuring in his sleep. The boy's expression was peaceful, untroubled by the enormity of what he'd done or the potential consequences still hanging in the balance. Nathan looked up at the alien predator, this being who had arrived as a dying enemy and now stood before them as, what? Not exactly a friend, but something changed, something different. So what now? Vex moved back to the craft's interior, examining the systems, which were now showing more signs of life, lights blinking where before there had been darkness. Now I restore what systems I can. Prepare for rescue. And consider what to tell my people about this world and its inhabitants. The unspoken question hung between them. Would one alien's transformed perspective be enough to protect humanity from a race of cosmic predators? As if sensing Nathan's thoughts, Vex turned back to face him. The Zentari respect strength above all else. Today I have seen strength of a kind we never imagined. That may be enough. And if it's not, Nathan pressed. Vex's eyes focused on Ethan's sleeping form, and something like resolve settled over his alien features. Then I will stand between my people and yours. This I vow to the small one who gave life when he could have fled, who offered comfort to a predator. Nathan nodded, understanding the weight of the moment, this unlikely alliance born of a child's simple act of compassion. Whatever came next, the universe had shifted today in ways none of them could fully comprehend. Outside, the sun had risen higher, filtering through the forest canopy to cast dappled light across the clearing. In this small corner of a vast cosmos, ancient certainties had been challenged and new possibilities born, all because a human boy had hugged an alien predator for the first time. We should get Ethan home to rest, Nathan said finally. But we'll come back to check on you before your rescue arrives. I would welcome this. The text seemed hesitant, as if expressing such a sentiment was entirely new territory for the predatory being. As Nathan stood, cradling his sleeping son, Vex moved back slightly, giving them space to depart. But before they could leave, the alien touched the translator one more time. Tell the small one when he wakes. Commander Vex of the Zentari Third Fleet names him friend. First in our history. This is highest honor. Nathan smiled slightly. I'll tell him. Though I think he'd say being your friend is honor enough. The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been confusion or amusement. Much to learn about humans. Perhaps. Much for Zentari to learn from humans. That goes both ways, Nathan replied. We'll be back tomorrow. As they left the clearing, Nathan carrying his exhausted son through the dappled forest light, he couldn't help but marvel at how the universe had changed in the space of a morning. First contact had occurred not with governments or militaries, but with a wildlife biologist and an 8-year-old boy who couldn't bear to see anyone suffer, even an alien predator who by all rights should have terrified him. Behind them, Vex watched their departure, his 4 eyes tracking their progress until they disappeared among the trees. For the first time in his long life as a hunter, the Zentari commander found himself experiencing something entirely new, the desire to protect rather than to hunt. It was disconcerting, revolutionary, and somehow right. In the quiet of the damaged escape pod, surrounded by the sounds of an alien forest, Commander Vex of the feared Zentari fleet began the unthinkable, questioning everything his species had believed for millennia. All because a human boy had hugged him when he was dying. Ethan slept for nearly 14 hours, his small body recovering from the mysterious energy transfer that had saved Vex's life. When he finally awoke in his bedroom, the events of the previous day came rushing back with startling clarity. "Dad," he called out, sitting up so quickly that his head spun. "The alien. Is he okay?" Nathan appeared in the doorway, relief washing over his face. "Hey, buddy. How are you feeling?" "I'm hungry," Ethan admitted, "but I'm okay." "What about Vex? Is he still alive?" Nathan sat on the edge of the bed. "Yes, he's alive. Better than alive, actually. Whatever you did, it healed him. Almost completely." Ethan's face lit up. "Really? I did that. I don't even know how." "Neither does Vex," Nathan said. "He asked me to tell you something when you woke up." He repeated the alien commander's message about naming Ethan a friend, the first in Zentari history. Ethan beamed with pride. "So when can we go see him again?" "After you've had something to eat, and I'm sure you're really okay," Nathan replied. "You gave us quite a scare, sleeping so long." While Ethan devoured 3 bowls of cereal, Nathan watched him carefully, looking for any sign of ill effects from yesterday's extraordinary events. But the boy seemed completely recovered, perhaps even more energetic than usual, buzzing with questions about Zentari, space travel, and whether Vex might teach him some alien words. By mid-afternoon, they were making their way back through the forest to the crash site. As they approached the clearing, Nathan was surprised to see significant changes. The escape pod had been partially repaired, its hull sealed where it had been damaged. Around it, the debris had been cleared and organized into neat piles of salvageable materials. Vex emerged from the craft as they approached, his massive form moving with the fluid grace of perfect health. In the daylight, fully recovered, the alien was even more imposing, nearly 12 feet tall, with muscular limbs and natural armor that gleamed iridescently in the sunlight. "Vex," Ethan called out, waving excitedly. "You look better." The alien retrieved the translator device, which now projected its text into the air between them. "Ethan, Nathan, your return is welcome. Yes, recovery is complete. Unprecedented in Zentari medical history. I'm glad you're okay," Ethan said simply, approaching without fear. "Our ship will come soon to rescue you, right?" "Correct. Approximately 20 of your hours remaining before arrival. I have been preparing." Nathan noticed several devices arranged around the perimeter of the clearing, technological objects that hadn't been there yesterday. "What are those?" "Camouflage generators. Will shield this area from detection by your world's primitive scanning technology. Also audio dampeners. Rescue will be loud." "Smart thinking," Nathan acknowledged. "The last thing we need is military involvement." Vex tilted his head, studying Nathan. "You fear your own kind's response, wouldn't you? Humans don't exactly have a great history of reacting well to things we don't understand." The aliens seemed to consider this. Similar to Zentari, then. Perhaps our species not so different in some ways. Ethan had been circling the alien, examining him with undisguised fascination. "Does it hurt anywhere still? Yesterday you had lots of purple blood everywhere. All systems fully functional. Blood replenished. Exoskeleton regenerated. Because of you, small one. But I don't understand how I did it," Ethan said, frowning slightly. "I just hugged you." Vex knelt down, bringing his fearsome face closer to Ethan's level, a gesture that showed remarkable adaptation to human interaction styles. "I have been analyzing this phenomenon. Zentari science recognizes certain species possess bioelectric fields. Some can manipulate these fields for defense, attack, but never before encountered species that can transfer healing energy. So humans have this bioelectric field?" Nathan asked. "All living things have such fields. But humans, or at least this human, appears to have unique configuration. Perhaps only children? Perhaps only certain genetic lineages? Unknown. Could other people do what I did?" Ethan asked, clearly excited by the possibility. Uncertain. Would require testing. Testing would require disclosure of human abilities to Centauri High Command. The unspoken implications hung in the air. Nathan stepped closer to his son. Which brings us back to what happens when your rescue arrives. Vex rose to his full height again, his posture straightening into what Nathan now recognized as a military bearing. I have made decision. Will report pod crash, survival against odds due to superior Centauri physiology. Will not mention human intervention or abilities. You'd lie to your own people? Nathan asked, surprised. Not lie. Omit. For protection of Ethan. Of Earth. Centauri expansion based on exploitation of resources, including biological resources. If High Command learned of human healing abilities. He didn't need to finish the thought. Nathan understood all too well what would happen if an aggressive, predatory species discovered that humans possessed valuable biological traits. Thank you, he said sincerely. Ethan, less concerned with the political implications, had moved to examine the escape pod more closely. Can I see inside again? I want to see what your spaceship looks like when it's not all broken. Vex hesitated, then gestured for the boy to enter. Centauri vessel not designed for guests. But you may observe. As Ethan explored the pod with delight, Vex turned to Nathan. Your offspring displays no fear. Unusual. Nathan smiled slightly. Kids are often like that, more curious than cautious. But Ethan's always been especially empathetic, even before his mother died. The female parent, no longer living. Cancer. 2 years ago. The alien was silent for a moment before the translator displayed. Centauri have concept, honorable death. Is this cancer? Such a death? Nathan considered the question. Not really. It's a disease. It ate her from the inside out. Nothing honorable about it, just sad. Yet her offspring carries her teaching, helps those in need, continues her honor. The observation caught Nathan off guard. There was something profound in the alien's perspective, a recognition of how Emma lived on through Ethan's compassion. Yes, he said quietly. I suppose he does. Inside the pod, Ethan was examining the control panels with fascination when something caught his eye, a compartment near what appeared to be Vex's resting area. Unlike the sterile, functional design of the rest of the craft, this space contained objects that seemed personal, strange crystalline formations, what might have been weapons or tools, and a device that emitted a soft, pulsing light. What are these? He called out. Vex ducked his massive frame through the entrance, moving to Ethan's side. Personal items. Trophies. Like, from hunting? Ethan asked, his voice smaller. Yes. Centauri tradition. Each trophy represents worthy prey. Honorable hunt. Ethan looked up at the towering predator, a new understanding dawning. You hunt other creatures. Like to eat them? Sometimes for sustenance. Mostly for honor. Skill. Respect of fellow hunters. The boy was quiet for a moment, processing this. Then, with the directness only children possess, would you have hunted me and Dad if you hadn't crashed? Nathan, who had followed them inside, tensed at the question. But Vex's response was immediate. No. Humans classified as non-worthy prey. Too easy. No challenge. No honor. Nathan wasn't sure whether to be relieved or offended. Good to know we're beneath your notice, he said dryly. Was assessment. Before. The text paused, then continued. Now? Reconsideration necessary. Humans possess qualities Centauri never imagined. Strength not of claw or fang, but of something else. Heart, Ethan supplied. Mom always said the strongest muscle is the heart. Not just the one that pumps blood, but the one that feels things for others. Vex studied the boy for a long moment. Centauri physiology, 3 heart chambers. Biological function only. Your meaning? Metaphorical? Yes, Nathan explained. We use heart to represent emotions, compassion, love. Centauri have emotions. Pride, anger, hunger for victory. But this? Compassion. This is new concept. Maybe that's what I gave you, Ethan suggested. Not just healing for your body, but something for your hearts too. The alien went very still, his four eyes blinking in sequence. Profound observation. Requires meditation. The rest of the afternoon passed with Ethan asking endless questions about space travel, alien worlds, and Zentari culture. Vex answered with increasing openness, occasionally asking his own questions about human ways. Nathan watched this improbable exchange with wonder, his 8-year-old son and an alien predator, bridging a gap between species that should have been insurmountable. As evening approached, Nathan reluctantly announced it was time to head home. "We'll come back tomorrow before your rescue arrives," he promised. "I would. Like this." The hesitation in the text suggested Vex was still growing accustomed to expressing preferences based on emotional rather than tactical considerations. As they prepared to leave, Vex retrieved something from his personal compartment, a small crystalline object that glowed with an inner light. "For Ethan, token of Zentari respect. Contains record of our meeting. Proof of first friendship between our kinds." Ethan accepted the gift with wide eyes. "Thank you. I'll keep it forever." That night, as Nathan tucked his son into bed, Ethan held the alien crystal, watching the patterns of light shift within it. "Dad, do you think Vex will remember us when he goes back to space?" "I think you've given him something he'll never forget," Nathan answered honestly. "I'm glad we found him," Ethan said sleepily, "even if he is a predator." The next morning, they returned to the clearing to find Vex standing outside his pod, gazing up at the sky. "My ship approaches. Earlier than expected. 1 hour until arrival. Will there be others Zentari like you?" Ethan asked eagerly. "Yes. Rescue team. 4 warriors, 1 medic. They must not know of you. Too dangerous. But they're your friends, right?" Ethan persisted. "Couldn't you tell them humans are friends too?" Vex knelt down to Ethan's level, his massive frame casting a shadow over the boy. "Ethan, listen carefully. Zentari not like me. I have changed. Because of you. They have not. Would see you as curiosity at best, resource at worst. Must protect you by keeping you secret." "He's right, Ethan," Nathan added. "We need to leave before they arrive." Ethan's face fell. "But I might never see you again." For the first time, Vex reached out without hesitation, gently placing one massive clawed hand on Ethan's shoulder. "I have made vow. We'll return to Earth. We'll find you. But first must change Zentari perspective. This takes time." "How long?" Ethan asked. "Cannot say. Perhaps many Earth years. But we'll return. This I swear by the hunt beyond." Nathan checked his watch. "We should go. Give you time to, I don't know, remove evidence we were here." "Yes. Prudent. Zentari hunters skilled at reading signs, tracking prey." Ethan looked up at Vex, tears forming in his eyes. "I don't want to say goodbye." The translator hesitated before displaying. "Zentari have no word for goodbye. Closest concept, until next hunt. But for you, Ethan friend, I will use human word, goodbye. For now." Impulsively, Ethan threw his arms around the alien's massive leg, hugging tightly. "Goodbye, Vex. Remember your promise." Something remarkable happened then. Vex, commander of the feared Zentari fleet, predator among predators, bent down and gently, so gently, returned the embrace, his 4 arms carefully encircling the small human child. "I remember. Always." As Nathan and Ethan retreated into the forest, the boy clutched the crystal gift tightly. At the edge of the trees, they turned for one last look. Vex stood tall beside his pod, his alien form silhouetted against the morning sun. He raised one hand in farewell, a gesture he must have learned from watching them. "Dad," Ethan whispered as they walked home, "do you think he'll really come back?" Nathan looked down at his son, this remarkable child who had changed an alien predator's heart with nothing more than compassion and a hug. If anyone could make a promise like that and keep it, I think it would be Vex. 3 years passed. Ethan grew taller, his interest in biology and astronomy intensifying as he entered middle school. Nathan continued his research, eventually publishing a groundbreaking paper on wolf pack dynamics that earned him a prestigious position at the University of Michigan. They moved to Ann Arbor, the cabin in the forest becoming a weekend retreat rather than their primary home. The crystal Vex had given Ethan sat on his bedside table, its glow never dimming. Sometimes, late at night, Ethan would hold it and whisper updates about his life, as if the alien might somehow hear him across the vast distances of space. One crisp autumn evening, as father and son drove up to spend the weekend at their cabin, Ethan suddenly pointed to the sky. "Dad, look!" A streak of light cut across the darkening heavens, too controlled to be a meteor, too fast to be an aircraft. It disappeared behind the tree line in the direction of the old crash site. Nathan and Ethan exchanged a glance, no words necessary. As soon as they reached the cabin, they grabbed flashlights and headed into the familiar forest, following a path they hadn't taken in years but had never forgotten. The clearing looked just as it had the day they'd left, the camouflage generators long since removed. No sign remained of the crash that had occurred there 3 years earlier. But in the center, illuminated by the beam of their flashlights, stood a tall figure. Commander Vex, resplendent in what appeared to be ceremonial armor, turned to face them. The translator activated. "Ethan friend. Nathan friend. I have returned, as promised." Ethan, now 11 and much taller than the last time they'd met, rushed forward without hesitation. "Vex, you came back." "Yes. Much to tell. Much has changed. For us too," Nathan said, approaching more cautiously. "You're alone?" "No other Zentari. Alone for this meeting. But not alone in my mission. Zentari High Command has sent official delegation. First contact protocol initiated." "First contact," Nathan repeated, stunned. "You mean?" "Yes. Zentari wish to establish formal relations with Earth. Not as hunters and prey, but as equals." "What changed their minds?" Nathan asked, though he suspected the answer. Vex's gaze settled on Ethan, who stood beaming up at the alien predator who had become, against all odds, a friend. "I showed them record of healing, of compassion, of strength unlike any Zentari had known. Told them of small human who taught predator new way. 3 years of debate, resistance, but truth prevailed." "You really did it," Nathan marveled. "You changed their entire perspective." "Not I alone. Ethan did, with simple act of kindness." Ethan stepped forward, holding up the crystal Vex had given him. "I kept it safe, just like I promised." Vex reached out, his massive clawed hand gently touching the crystal, then Ethan's hand. "And I kept my promise. Zentari delegation arrives tomorrow to meet Earth leaders. But tonight, I came for you, my friends. The first to show that greatest strength is not in taking life, but in giving it." And as the stars emerged above the Michigan forest, human and alien stood together in the clearing, living proof that compassion could bridge the gap between predator and prey, between worlds separated by vast gulfs of space and understanding. All because, years earlier, a wounded alien predator was dying, until a human boy hugged him for the first time. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.